Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And this evening, we're going to be continuing Inuyashiki, The Last Web of Hope. What if Ichiro was Cyborg Spider-Man, Part 2. For those of you wondering, this was a recent addition to Phase 2, the last edition to say the least. It's just a 4-part miniseries based off of the alternate version of Spider-Man, that being the Cyborg Spider-Man of Earth 2818, combined with the sci-fi thriller of Inuyashiki. And I figured with this series, it's not going to be long, it's not going to be anything too drawn out. And since I don't know if I'll do Inuyashiki as often in the future, this might be one of the only times I even think of wanting to do it. So I figured, why not do it now? Or at least do a version of it now. And so far for part 1, it's been a lot of positive review. A lot of you guys have really turned up for it. And with part 2, we're already at the halfway point since we're doing this in the afternoon. Parts 3 and 4 will be this Thursday and Friday. And afterwards, this series will be brought to a close. But still, I want to thank everyone who has been showing this series support, along with all the other stories that we have here on the channel. And make sure you check out our earlier upload in the day so that you can stay up to date on everything on PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into today's video. So as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. A phenomena was starting to occur in Japan. Strange things that couldn't be explained. First, people dying from what seemed to be bullets created by air. And on the other hand, the signs of a real-life superhero, of Spider-Man no less. For Ichiro, he almost felt like he was living a dream. A man once sentenced to death, now given a new lease on life. As he continued to explore his powers and the many things that he could do, the one thing he hadn't lost was his sense of self. He did not let his newfound strength and powers define him, nor did he allow the power to change or warp who he was. He was still the average salesman, and he continued to be that. But he chose to answer the cries for help. Not too long ago, he had saved a young couple who was being harassed by the Yakuza, and he had been cracking down on a lot of the crime. At first, many of the criminals of Japan thought that this was little more but some sort of made-up fantasy. I mean, come on, Spider-Man? He's nothing but a fictional character from a book. There's no way he's real. But slowly, his presence was being felt. Crime rates were starting to go down. Not overnight or anything, but it started to become something that couldn't be ignored. Many of the Yakuza factions even had to come together to call a meeting just to make sure that what was happening wasn't some sort of dream. Even more so, if it were to be true, if it were to be believed that this Spider-Man was real, then they had some studying to do. Yes, almost as if it were out of fiction, a bunch of grown men, dangerous, finding themselves going into comic book stores, buying any and everything they could find on information about Spider-Man. And of course, on one hand, it was everything you would expect to find. The typical story of a boy bitten by a radioactive spider, gaining the powers of a spider, being able to do everything a spider can. And some of them took it way too literally. A lot of high schools were now starting to come under suspect, especially by those of the Yakuza. Any nerdy or ordinary boy was immediately hauled off, looking as though he could be the potential culprit, although none of them proved to be. But had they been paying attention, they might have seen that there was someone even more dangerous. It started when a few members of the Yakuza gang had arrived to Hiro Shishigami's school. They had been scoping around, seeing if there were any teens acting unordinary. He didn't much care for them. They were nothing more but criminals. Common thugs that had no business coming around this campus. Of course, not like he cared personally. It's not like they could do anything to him. But when he saw them messing with his friend, it was then that he had a problem. His friend, Nayuki, had been pushed into an alleyway. It was by 5 thugs, all of them just asking if he knew anything about this Spider-Man phenomena that was going about. Of course, Nayuki didn't know anything, but they just wanted to be sure. Of course, though, Hiro didn't tolerate such foolishness. Hey, can you leave him alone? Huh? This ain't got nothing to do with you, kid. Just run along. I don't think you understand. Leave my friend alone, or else. Look, kid, we ain't nice people. You be wise to make sure you don't go running your mouth and go looking for trouble. Now, we don't know which one of you damn brats are running around here in that red and blue getup trying to play hero, but you're getting in the way of our business. You know what? Maybe you know something about it. So fess up. Are you the Spider-Man? Huh? Oh my God. No, the hell I'm not. Why the hell would I go dressed up as that geek? And even if I was, let's just say, humor you that I was Spider-Man. Right now, I have all of you trapped here. What the hell are you gonna do about it? You know what? I'm feeling a little cramped. How about I let off some... Hiro, holding his finger in a gun-like motion, placed the tip of his finger under the man's chin before firing off an air bullet and shooting the man's head off. The members of the gang immediately went racing towards him, but he killed them all with ease. Bang, 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 and bang. It was almost too easy at this point. Hiro would call for Nayuki to run and get away from here. These guys really were annoying. But if they were looking for a Spider-Man, then he knew exactly who they were talking about. That old geezer. Of all the cool things he could have been, he chose to turn into that freak? I mean, come on. Had the guy never seen One Piece before? Like, damn. Of course, there were also other options. But for now, he wouldn't concern himself with that. He didn't really care. Of course, though, for Nayuki, he was worried. His friend was completely losing it. I mean, sure, he was grateful for the help, but still, it didn't change the crime sprees that were happening. All those home invasions, the murders, that was still him. Nayuki wanted to say something. He wanted to come clean about what was going on, but he couldn't do anything. He knew better. For now, he figured he'd keep his silence and try to keep a watchful eye over his friend. Although in the grand scheme of things, no one would have the power to stop him. In the meanwhile, the reports of the household murders would continue, as they would continue looking through and following with their investigation. It didn't take long for Hiro and for his reckless antics to catch the eye of the police. However, Hiro had his own problems. There was his mother, who had recently learned that she was terminally ill with cancer. When she told the news to her son, you could say that this was the first time that any form of humanity actually washed over the boy's consciousness. Almost as if for a split second, the human being that once existed actually came to the surface. The boy found that he could use his powers to heal others as much as cause harm. And while he didn't care for many, if anyone in this world, he at least still cared for his mother. As such, he cured her. Of course, she would be shocked to say the least. How her son was able to do these type of things, she didn't understand. And at the same time, she couldn't deny how grateful she was. However, her short-lived jubilation would soon turn to anguish. As many had begun to suspect Hiro of the murders and of the crimes that had been committed, it didn't take long for the police to begin their search. In order to not pull his mother into any harmful situation, he decided to go on the run. There was a girl that had asked him out not too long ago, her name being Shion Watanabe. He stayed at her place for a bit just to lay low, watching as people online would continue to speak and gossip about him. Of course, he really didn't mind or care, but there was one thing that bothered him though. It was the fact that the people were not only talking about him, but also talking about his mother. In the meantime, Naoki was worried. Hiro hadn't been at school for a while. Of course, he knew that his friend could take care of himself, but that wasn't really the worry. It was what he was going to do. He wondered if he could actually call out to that other guy that he had heard so much about. Finding a secluded area, Naoki would yell to the top of his lungs for Spider-Man to come and save him. And no more than a few minutes later, a man dressed in red and blue would come flying in, although he ended up crashing onto the ground. Are you okay, sir? Oh, I'm fine. I'm just not getting the hang of this whole swinging and flying thing. But I heard you, and I came running as soon as I could. What's the matter, young man? Sir, You're like my friend. With that, Naoki and Ichiro would talk. Ichiro learning more about what had happened, about Hiro, who he was and what he could do. So I see. You're friends with the young man who's been committing the murders. Yeah. I know I should have spoke up and said something, but I wasn't sure what he'd do. To be honest, I think the only reason why he probably wouldn't harm me is because we're friends. I mean, if he found out that I was talking to you, then he might. There's no need. I understand. Sir? Yes? I mean, not that it's not cool or anything, but why did you choose to be dressed up like Spider-Man? Oh, this. Well, I'm a really big fan of manga and comic books. And of all the heroes in comics, Spider-Man's the one that I've always looked up to and emulated. Of course, I always thought that I could never actually be Spider-Man. That is until now. My powers that I've been given by that strange UFO, it's allowed me to do all of these things. You mean like that whole with great power comes great responsibility? Yes. I know a lot of people like to make jokes about it. They like to think that it's nothing more but an old saying that comes from an old story. But I like to think it applies to all aspects of life, not just having these crazy powers. We all have great power, Nayuki. It just comes in how we use it. We have power to do great good and great evil, and it seems your friend has chosen the former. What are you going to do? I've been trying to clean up his messes. I have the power to heal those that have been harmed. I try to do whatever I can, but even still, I'm only playing catch-up. Allow me to help you. I mean, I've been hanging around him for so long, I've been able to see what his powers can and can't do. I mean, you're doing well, but I think if you both are the same, you can be capable of doing so much more. You want to help me? I do. I mean, I don't want my friend to get harmed, but I can't just let him keep harming others and getting away with it. It's not much, but if I can help you bring him down, then I'm gonna do so. With that, Nayuki and Ichiro would begin getting to work, practicing as Ichiro would learn more about his powers, learning what he could do and how to push himself to his fullest limits. Among many things, he discovered that he had a lot more weapons. Of course, they were a lot more destructive, and he decided he'd only use them when necessary. And besides, even if he was able to fly around and things, there was still this great exhilaration that came with swinging around all of Japan. I mean, you can't knock it till you try it. And this was a lifelong dream come true. So Ichiro would learn how to use his ability of flight, and when necessary he would fly instead of swinging, but still, just for his own personal fun, he'd swing around whenever he had the chance. However, in the meanwhile, Hiro was staying under wraps, as the police would continue their search for him, eventually sending the SWAT team to invade Shinon's home in attempts of trying to take him down. However, in the midst of the shootout, it all proved to be for naught, as, in the end of the day, they were no match for him. In the end, though, it didn't really bother him. He didn't actually care. He didn't care what people called him online, what they said. They called him the devil, a bastard child, a plague on society. Honestly, these were all the words of fools. Fools who didn't have power. It's funny. The weak always seem to know what's best. They always want to try to keep the strong in submission. However, Hiro didn't feel that way. He didn't regret anything he'd done. In fact, if he could do it all over again, he'd do it without hesitation. In fact, he'd double down and indulge in it deeper. But there was one thing that disturbed him. That these people talked about his mother. That they badmouthed her. That they spoke ill on her name. It made him mad. He learned that he was capable of doing many things, even being able to access the internet and satellites that orbited the planet. Whatever this alien or robotic being was that took over his body, it granted him abilities far beyond his comprehension. However, when he was looking at the news and he saw that his mother had died after taking her own life, distraught over what had happened, and even more so, seeing how his father was speaking to the media and not even offering any concern or goodwill towards his mother. It was at that moment that Hiro If there was any vestige within him, any part of him that cared, then those days were long gone. Using the satellites, he found all of the 4chans, all of those who had spoken about him, using the technology of those that had spoken ill of his mother and of him. They all began to drop, dropping like flies, like coins that sunk at the bottom of a well. He eventually arrived to his home where his father was speaking to the media. Without any warning, he killed them all, leaving only his father to remain. If the world thought of him as the devil, then he was going to leave this world in such a state that he would make these people wish that the devil was real. Because he was going to be something far, far more worse. They want a villain? Then I'll give them a villain. As Hiro walked inside of a library, he saw that there was an elderly woman inside. She calmly walked to the boy, not having any news or having heard anything about him. He walked past her. Before she even had a chance to say anything, her head was severed from her shoulders. As he sat down in front of the computer, he would begin to do a little research. First, he had to find out about that old man. Having a picture of him in his mind, he began looking through the databanks until finally he found him. Ichiro Inuyashiki. So, you were the one that was also blessed with power. A foolish old man trying to capture his youth. He also found names of his family. A lovely bunch. He'd definitely have to pay them a visit. But then he also thought about something else. The old man, he was a big fan of those Western comics. As he began looking online, he found a catalog. Marvel Heroes. Spider-Man. He looked until he found the Rogues Gallery. He would find Spider-Man soon, but before he did so, perhaps it was time to do a little studying. I gotta say, things are about to get rather sinister for you, Mr. Inuyashiki. Or should I say, Spider-Man. This concludes Inuyashiki, The Last Web of Hope. What if Ichiro was Cyborg Spider-Man? Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications. And please come back tomorrow evening as we will continue our story with part 3. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.